So the Supreme Court has got it wrong big time. Now this comes at the Woodrow Wilson Espionage Act and Sedition Act. This is 1919, the Abrams decision. So Abrams v. U.S., this comes 3 months after the Schenck decision. In the Schenck decision, there's 2 important things: clear and present danger, and, don't shout fire in the theater. It's Oliver Wendell Holmes. And so the Schenck decision was terrible because this guy's just, mailing his protest against the draft, and then he's going to go to jail. And then the Abrams decision is even worse. Basically, I think just Russians who were radicals, like their personal ideology was radical, but their crime was they threw 2 leaflets out of a building. Just 2 pieces of paper they threw out of a building in New York City. And then the building, the piece of paper had said something about intervention in the Russian Revolution, we need to stop this, and some other stuff, we got to fight the power, basically. But just throwing 2 leaflets out of a building was Abrams' decision, and it's going to get passed by a 7-2 decision. But Oliver Wendell Holmes, he's going to say Schenck can't, interfere with the draft, but you could throw a leaflet out the window. So Oliver Wendell Holmes seems to be going the exact opposite direction. He's the one that comes up with the clear and present danger standard. And then in the Abrams case, they say that, they're going to overthrow the government or, stop the munitions industry. So it's, their words and their intentions, are consistent with the Schenck decision. But Oliver Wendell Holmes, I feel that this nullifies Schenck because he, totally does an about face and reverses course, does a 180. And so what I find important from the Abrams decision, and I'll get to the details of it in a second, but the Abrams decision is important because of Oliver Wendell Holmes' dissent. So a 7-2, the majority says, fuck the Abrams, fuck these Russians that threw 2 pieces of paper out the window. They could have got it for littering, right? That's littering, but to sit there and say that they're trying to, that's not a revolution. Throwing a piece of paper out the fucking window is so ridiculous and embarrassing. I'm almost embarrassed, that our nation put up with that shit. That's the Russians were over here and they thought that they could write on a piece of, we got right to free speech, but apparently not, right? And they were Russians, but I don't know if they were Russian nationals or naturalized immigrants. They could very well have been Americans. But they clearly wouldn't do anything dangerous. So the ultimate good described is better reached by the free trade in ideas. The ultimate good desired is better reached by free trade in ideas. This is Oliver Wendell Holmes. The best test of truth is the power of the thought to get itself accepted into the competition of the market, and that truth is the only ground upon which their wishes safely can be carried out. That, at any rate, is the theory of our Constitution. It is an experiment, as all life is an experiment. Every year, if not every day, we have to wager our salvation upon some prophecy based upon imperfect knowledge. While that experiment is part of our system, I think that we should be eternally vigilant against attempts to check the expression of opinions that we loathe and believe to be fraught with death, unless they so imminently threaten immediate interference with the lawful and pressing purposes of the law, that an immediate check is required to save the country. I wholly disagree with the argument of the government that the First Amendment left the common law as to seditious libel and force. History seems to be against the notion. I concede that the U.S. through many years has shown its repentance for the Sedition Act of 1798 by repaying fines that impose Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. The defendants were deprived of their rights under the Constitution of the United States of America. I believe that the defendants had as much right to publish the 2 leaflets as the government has to publish the Constitution of the United States that they now vainly invoke by them. Okay, I messed it up slightly, but who cares? Okay, so that's Oliver Wendell Holmes in the 1990 Abrams decision. So his dissent is the important part because he says why we have free speech. Because, he says we should protect unpopular speech, speech we disagree with, because ultimately we're not going to win the war of ideas by imposing authoritarian anti-speech, measures upon them. So that's Oliver Wendell Holmes in the 1919 Abrams case. Now let's get to some of the details of this case. What is Abrams about? So they had to ask the question, did these four individuals have the specific intent to cause insubordination in the armed forces? So Abrams v. U.S. 1919 7-2 decision. This is the Espionage Act. The test is, is the goal. The ultimate goal for Abrams and company to have insubordination of the armed forces. 1918, the U.S. invaded Russia in theory to fight the Germans there. Now, the Russians didn't like that because the Russian Revolution just happened, and there were some Russians in New York City who didn't like that America, while we're fighting the Germans, invaded Russia. Abrams and company were caught throwing leaflets out of a building. One of the two leaflets were written in Yiddish. So one of the two leaflets wasn't even in English, so most Americans wouldn't even know what the hell is being said. Hey! I'll come back. More on Abrams' 1919 decision coming up. Peace.